So that's it then. They fucking won. Fuming is an understatement at the moment. This is unbelievable. So to go back to where all this began, Gary Lineker tweeted this in response to Suella Braverman. She was tweeting about the Stop the Boats campaign and how the Tories were going to suddenly stop illegal immigration. Lineker draws comparisons between the language used by the Germans in the 1930s to what's going on currently within the Tory party. And if you know history, which a lot of people claim they do, he's not completely wrong here. I won't get into it because I'll probably get cancelled myself for my own opinion here, but back to the point at hand. So Lineker has come under serious fire since then from a lot of right-wing and Tory members, saying that someone who's funded by the BBC, someone who's funded by the public, shouldn't be allowed to have a political opinion online. And just to clear up a fact on that too, we don't have to pay our TV licence. It's not like a tax. It is optional. So if you don't like it, don't pay it. But that's not the point here. It really isn't. For years, we've been told by these very same people that everyone is being cancelled, cancel culture, this freedom of speech is under threat. And as soon as someone makes their own opinion known online, they're asked to be axed and fired and removed and cancelled completely. A bit hypocritical if you ask me. And if you can't already tell, I'm absolutely furious at this. And I'm not the only one. In recent days, people have been sharing polls from the public on the Stop the Boats campaign and how much support people have, using it as a tool to push their narrative, saying that it has public support. Well, public support this, because the public support the idea of free speech, thankfully, but they don't really care about this, do they? It doesn't suit their narrative, so it doesn't matter. This is what this is. This is free speech. Whether you like it or not, whether you disagree, that's the whole point of free speech. You're entitled to disagree with what people say, but they're entitled to their opinion. And if you're going to use the fact that he's paid by the BBC as a factor in why he shouldn't be allowed to have his own opinion, then one, that's fundamentally flawed. And two, shouldn't the same rules apply to all of those who are publicly funded? And let's take a look at Rees-Mogg, who's working for GB News. He's paid by the public directly. He's paid by taxpayer money, and he now has a job on GB News. Nadine Dorries was on Talk TV with Boris Johnson, and Lee Anderson is also on GB News. All under contract from the taxpayer, and they're allowed to put their biased views whenever they please. Ofcom have looked into this and said that's perfectly fine. So why is it any different? In fact, shouldn't it be more scrutiny against an MP doing this kind of thing versus someone who is generally just a member of public hired by the BBC? It just doesn't make any sense. The usual suspects have led a campaign against him since he posted that, because he disrupts their views. He goes against the grain of what they believe and disagrees with them fundamentally. But they're also in their rights to have that opinion, just like Lineker is allowed to have his opinion. But because it garnered so much support and he's such a public figure, there's fear there. So the best thing to do? Get rid of him. And they're definitely on the right track to doing so. But we won't go down easily. Ian Wright has come out and said that he won't be hosting Match of the Day tomorrow in solidarity. And you'll see all the same people saying, I never liked Ian Wright, I never liked Gary Lineker. No, but you did, until his opinion didn't match up with yours. So instead of having reasonable debate and having discussions with people, you say, right, block them, hide them, put them in a box, throw them away. It's actually quite sad, but it's also scary. The same list of people that defended Jeremy Clarkson for his comments against Meghan Markle, citing freedom of speech there too and saying how he should be allowed to say whatever he wants, are now saying that Gary Lineker can't say what he wants because he is funded by the BBC. Again, an optional fee that you pay. This country needs a serious wake-up call. It really does. This is just an example of the free speech lot and the cancel culture crew becoming what they hate the most, apparently. For the last few days, all I've seen is news articles, stories, breaking news, tweets, all aimed at the BBC and Gary Lineker, asking, begging, screaming for him to be sacked on the spot for his comments, for speaking his truth. And the BBC have come out and said that he breaks guidelines. His Twitter account isn't owned or run by the BBC. Nor does he sign his tweets off with BBC Match of the Day host. He's Gary Lineker. When he's on Match of the Day, he's the host of the Match of the Day for BBC, and he definitely has to hold up some level of decorum at that point. But in his own free time, unacceptable. It really is. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with what Gary Lineker said here. What matters is the consequences of free speech. And whether you're for or against what he said, you can't argue that what's happening currently is not the way to go. It's an absolute farce. And the baying mob have won and got what they wanted. I hope now that the shouts from the other side will drown out these, people, and common sense will prevail. Because this does set a dangerous precedent for future employees at BBC and potentially future employees in other roles. In your free time, toe the line, don't say anything nasty about us or you might get sacked. And if you're into that sort of thing, more power to you. I'm not, and I'm always going to argue against it. Always. And as I was recording this, Alan Shearer has also said that he won't be appearing on Match of the Day tomorrow. They can't all be wrong. Surely not. If you support his potential firing, his axing, or whatever you want to call it, maybe look inside and think, maybe I'm on the wrong side of history. Because whatever side you are on, this is wrong. Anyway, I'll be watching this closely. I might do another video, but yeah, I had to get this off my chest. I'm fuming. Furious. It's an extremely bad look for the BBC. It's quite pathetic. They folded under the pressure. Anyway, see ya.